Hi, I'm Opal Mitchell. I work for the Central Arkansas Library System and I work at the Nixon branch in Jacksonville. And this is the Crafting with Opal program that I do on Thursday nights at 7. Tonight I'm going to be showing you how to do, it's going to be a sewing tutorial, and the name of it's, I don't know if it really tells you what it is, but it's called I'm looking, Bookmark and Pencil Pocket. It's something that's got a elastic on it that allows you to put on the front of like a journal, and you can put two pens or pencils on it, and it'll kind of even hold your place in the journal. I didn't bring my example I had made with me home, so I can't really show you the what it's going to look like, but you'll see at the end what it looks like. Actually, hold on, I think I got a picture. Yeah. The printout of it, of the tutorial, and that gives you an idea. It's something that you can put on your journal. It holds your place. I use it for my calendar at work to kind of hold my place for what month I'm on as far as my work calendar that I put all of my stuff in. So it's kind of a neat, little fun, easy project, and you can use all different colored fabric for it. The one we're going to be doing today will work on a journal. Let's see what size. Is it a journal that's about 11 inches tall. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over and show the fabric that I'm going to be using. Alright, I'll need to turn that a little bit. This is the fabric that I'm going to use for this, and then I've got this elastic that I'm going to use for the elastic part. You can use solid color fabric or elastic if you want to. This is the fold over kind. It really doesn't matter if you use this kind or not. Looks like I have a little bit of a pick on that, but as long as it's a wide elastic that is, let's see, yeah, she really doesn't specify how wide the elastic needs to be, but this one that I'm using, I think is about an inch. Yeah, it's an inch wide. So I wouldn't go wider than an inch because it's going to just fit perfectly on there. I guess you could go a little bit wider, but it might be a little more difficult if you do that. So I've already got my piece of elastic. You're going to cut a 14-inch long piece of your elastic, but I've already cut that, so I'm going to just set that to the side. And this is the fabric I'm going to be using. Keep in mind, if your fabric is directional, that's going to make a difference on the direction that you put your fabric when you're cutting it out. Mine goes in all directions, so it doesn't matter. So I'm just going to cut out my pieces, and with this you're going to be cutting out 3 different pieces for this. A front and a back piece and a pocket piece. The front and back is going to measure 2.5 by 8 inches for just the bookmark part. So we're going to be cutting out 2 of those pieces like that. And then for the pocket, it's going to be 2.5 inches by 10 inches because we're going to be folding that piece in half. That's why it's going to be longer than the bookmark piece itself. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out the bookmark pieces. Okay, so they're going to be 2.5 by 8 inches, and I'm going to use a rotary cutter and my I always forget, I want to call it a measuring tool, but of course it's a ruler. So I'm also going to use my mat to help line this up a little bit. So since it doesn't really matter what direction they go, I'm just going to try to keep some of these designs in the middle, but it really doesn't matter because this one isn't straight across the way the design, it's kind of intermixed a little bit. I'm going to scoot everything over and have it kind of in the middle, because sometimes when this uploads to Facebook and also to YouTube, sometimes it cuts off some of it. So this ruler that I'm using is 3 inches wide, so I don't want to cut it exactly the same all the way across here. So I'm going to be cutting like to the 1/2 inch mark. But I think I'm going to do my longer piece first. It's 10 inches. So this is my 10-inch mark down here, and I don't think you can see it, so I'm going to tilt the camera a little bit more. So maybe it's a little more visible. I'm going to tilt it so I can get in here also. Alright, so I'm going to do 10 inches from the top, and I'm going to get a little bit closer to the top. And I'm going to get over just a little bit. Well, I don't think it really matters. So I'm just going to get over as close to the edge as possible. You don't want to get the very edge of the fabric. Even though it looks straight, it's really truly not straight. Alright, so I'm going to start at the top and cut down to my 10-inch mark, which is about right here. See if it, oh good, it cut good. And I don't want to cut on the other side because that's 3 inches and I need 2.5 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the top a little bit to kind of get me a good straight edge on the top. And then I'm going to move this over. I don't like that this fabric is, I'm going to cut that little piece off so I can keep a better eye on where that is. Okay. You don't really have to do that, but I'm just doing that so I can see it better. And I want, this is my 1/2 mark right, let me make sure. Sometimes it gets a little confusing trying to see through it, which, nope, that's my 1/2 inch mark. You would think the solid lines would be where that is. Let's see. And that's, I moved it over just a little bit. So let me make sure I've got all my lines lined up. Wait. 2.5. Let's see, that's 1, 2. Yeah, that's always a little hard. Gosh, I'm going to have to move this out here so I can see it better. Okay, so that's my 1/2 inch mark. I got new glasses. I'm still having trouble seeing. Okay. Alright, so now that I've got this line lined up with my edge, now I can cut the other side. And this is always the harder side for me because I'm not left-handed. Maybe, let me try. No, not gonna work. I just cannot do that left-handed. Okay, and my 10 mark is down here, so I want to make sure that I go at least past that point a little bit. Okay, that's good. Alright, so I'm going to move that out of the way. And I'm going to move this way. And I have my 10-inch mark also this direction, so I'm going to line this all up and then cut my bottom piece. Okay, so this is going to be my 2.5 by 10-inch piece, which is going to be my pocket. So I've got that piece cut out. Now I need 2 pieces that are going to be 2.5 by 8 inches. So I'm going to be just using that edge that I started with. Let's see here. And I'm going to go ahead and do a little comment on here. Hello. There we go. And I think Mitzi might be watching. Well, hello Mitzi, if you are watching. It looks like it's showing that you're watching. Okay, so now I know my edge is straight here. So I think what I'm going to do, since I know I have a straight edge, I want this to be 8 inches. So I'm going to move this And here's my 8-inch mark here. I'm going to move it up here just a bit, and then I'm going to move over to my half mark so I can kind of straighten it up a little bit. Okay, so now I've got it measured where this is 2.5 inches across, and then it's about 8 inches down. It's a little, I got to cut the top off of there, so I got to leave, I'm going to move it down just a hair, because I don't want to get any, I want to cut off the part that's kind of frayed at the top. Okay. So, and I'm cutting just past that point because, let's see here. I'm going to be cutting again anyway, another piece just the same size, so let's see. Alright, so I got that piece, but the top I need to kind of cut that, so actually I like cutting from this direction. Alrighty. I guess you heard my phone ring there in the background. We don't end up answering our home phone a whole lot because it's usually people we don't want to talk to. It's usually people trying to sell us stuff or spam. I'm probably one of the few people I know that still has a home phone. Okay. Alright, so that's my 8 by 2.5, so I got one of those and I need a second one. Scoot this back over here. Alright, so now I'm just going to cut another piece that's 8.5 or 8 by 2.5, which, let's scoot that over here. Oh, my numbers are all upside down. Okay, so there's my 8-inch, and I want 2.5 inches wide. Okay, so let's just go ahead and cut across here. And you can always measure it and mark it with a water-soluble pen instead of the way I'm doing it with this rotary cutter and mat. I didn't quite get that straight. When I do it at an angle, it's a little more difficult. Okay, that's better. So this is a fairly simple project. Alright, so that's good. I'm not going to need any more of this fabric, so since it's a big piece of fabric, I'm going to fold it up and get it out of the way. So I have to deal with it anymore. Just put it to the side. Alright, and with my other version of this that I made, I ended up putting some interfacing on it to make it a little more sturdier. I did that, I think I did it on just, I did it on the pocket and the main fabric, but it made it a little too stiff, so it was a little difficult turning it inside out. And so I'm not going to do that with this one. I'm kind of curious. They don't actually tell you to use any interfacing, so I'm going to see how this one goes, if it's if it works well even without doing the interfacing. I did use some medium weight interfacing, which is kind of a little bit stiffer than most. So if you did want it somewhat like that but not real stiff, then I would probably try some lightweight interfacing. I think that might work a little bit better. And I'm going to, the first part we're going to be sewing is the pocket, and so I'm going to just press it real quick on the fold. So let me get this out real quick. And you're going to fold it where the wrong sides are facing each other. So you're just going to line that up and press it, which I need to get my iron ready. And I'm moving my other pieces over there because the first piece we're going to iron is just the top of this to make it lay flat and have some top stitching. So I'm just going to press this. Good, it decided to kick on for me. Alright, so I've got that pressed, and I'm going to keep my ironing board up here because at some point I will have to do that again. And I'm going to double check my directions and make sure I'm following along correctly. Yeah, then we'll be putting our pieces together once I get that top piece sewn. I'm just going to do some, move over to the sewing machine and do some top stitching to just the very top of the pocket that we're going to be working with. And that's the piece that was the 10-inch long piece that I cut out. Alrighty here. And here we go. Alright, so here's the piece that I folded in half. And I just picked some pink thread for mine because I wanted it to show up a little bit. If you wanted it to blend in, then I would recommend picking one of the main colors in your fabric. Like with this one, if I didn't want it to show up as much, I would have picked, if I had it, a dark brown that matched the brown on the fabric. Or if you didn't have a brown one, a black would have blended in pretty good. But I think if I didn't have black, I would have picked white, because I kind of would want my stitches to show up. It adds a little bit to it. So I just did a back stitch first, and I'm just going across the top. Get to the end and then back stitch a couple. Ooh, that's good. Alright. And I'll show you what I meant. I just like having a color that kind of shows up on mine. Let's see. There's some. And then I'm going to show you how to. I'm just cutting my threads out of the way. And then I'm going to just come over here to this table and show you how I'm going to put it together. Alright, so that's the pocket, the top of the pocket, and these are my two 8-inch by 2.5-inch pieces. So there's both of them. And if you want them going a certain direction, which I noticed the yellow birds are going one direction, I think I'm going to turn it where they're going the same direction. And at this point, let's see here how that might be kind of cute. Yeah, I like having some different ones. Okay, so I'm going to lay my pocket and line it up with the bottom of this piece. This one's gonna be my back piece, so I'm gonna put it to the side. So we've got our front piece and our pocket piece laying on top of each other, and I've got it lined up with the bottom here. And if your elastic you're using, if it has one color on one side and one on the other, decide which way do you want it to show. This is on the same. I think most of them are going to be the same on both sides, so that's not really going to matter a whole lot. So let's see here. I'm going to put this up here, and you're going to center this at the top of your fabric. So if you're not real sure if you're doing a good job of centering it, just grab something to measure with just to make sure that you're centering your fabric on here. Let's see, I'm going to try to scoot this down. This is a really long ruler, so it's going to make it kind of difficult to see. Alright, so I'm going to line this up with that, and this is 2.5 inches, so that's my inch and that's my inch, and this is going to be my center. So I'm going to center. Okay, don't move. Actually, I'm going to lay this on top of it so it won't move around so much. Fabric won't move around. Okay. So I can see. Alright, I lost my spot again because that's an inch and that's an inch. So that's the middle. Okay. So this is exactly the middle because I'm lining up the middle of this with that middle mark. Okay, so that's exactly the middle. So I'm going to scoot it up a little bit. Move that out of the way. Alright, so once I get that centered and I make sure that my pocket is where I want it and it's not going to move around, then we're going to take the piece that's going to be on back and we're going to turn it where it's facing down on top of the other pieces. So right sides, I have all my right sides facing each other. So this is my right side, this is my right side. So we're having all of those face each other. And at this point, once you get everything lined up, you're going to pin it in place. I'm going to use clips. You can use pins, it doesn't matter. But I just happen to have these clips handy, so I'm going to use them. So I'm pinning up here to make sure that elastic stays in place for me. And I'm going to pin it down the sides. And one thing I want to make sure that I pin really good is where the pocket is located. So that's where my pocket is. And make sure you're getting all of your fabric and not missing any of it at the bottom. We want this to stay loose. Let's see here. Make sure everything is lining up properly. Just make sure. Okay, and I want that to be kind of loose. I don't, because we're going to avoid sewing over that part when we're sewing everything else. Let's see. Making sure I'm getting everything. Okay. So, I'm going to turn it over and it looks like I've gotten everything. And what we're going to do is we're going to start at the bottom when we're sewing. We're going to start in the corner here. We're not going to sew over this elastic. We're going to start here and we're going to sew to this corner and go all the way down here. Turn to this corner, sew across, and then we're going to go all the way back down this side. And then we're going to turn the corner and come forward a little bit, but we're not going to get the elastic. At that point, we'll turn it right side out. So that's where we are right now. So I'm going to move this over to the sewing machine. Ow. Just hit my knee. Alright, let me scoot this back just a tad because it's actually hitting my sewing machine. Let me tilt that just a little bit better. Alrighty. So I'm going to start at this end, like I said. Move my thread over. And I'm going to start at the corner. So I'm going to remove that one. I'm not going to sew over that elastic. So I'm going to get away from my elastic. I do not want to move forward that much. I'm going to stay about 1/4 of an inch from, that's what kind of seam I'm going to have, is about 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to move my stuff around down here so I can get to it better. So I'm going to sew forward, but I'm actually, ooh, I don't like the stitch length that I have right now. I'm going to adjust that just a tiny bit. That's too big of a stitch length. Okay, I'm going to back up a couple of stitches to reinforce. And then I'm going to sew to, I'm really close to the edge, so yeah, I guess that's good. And I'm going to turn. And I'm going I'm gonna move this closer so I can have a place to put those. And wherever did I already go over my pocket? I was going to reinforce, well, it'll get reinforced on the other side, so it'll be okay. But I feel, oh, there it is. Sometimes I like to reinforce plate pockets. So, since I hadn't passed it yet, I'm going to go ahead and, there we go, reinforce it a little bit. Alright, so now I'm going to turn, I got to my corner, and I don't think I'm going to be able to get very close, yeah. Make sure my elastic does not move. And, yeah, just making sure. And we're going to be doing a top stitch, so that will also reinforce the areas that you want to reinforce. So, don't have to worry too much about that. Get that out of the way. Okay, I just went over the pocket, so I'm going to go the edge of the pocket. So I'm just going to go over it again just to be careful. Any thing that you're sewing that you're going to be pulling at the seams on something, be sure to kind of go over it a couple of times just to reinforce it. That really does help a lot with keeping stuff from coming apart on you. Okay. Alright, so I've made it close to back around to where I started. I'm only going to sew forward a little bit. I do not want to hit my elastic, so I'm going to back up now. And any edges that you're going to be, where you're going to be turning something inside out, you also want to make sure that you reinforce that too, because otherwise the stitching will come apart whenever you turn it right side out. Okay, so we got that sewn, and I'm probably not going to need those anymore. So now I'm going to just be cutting my threads here. Get those out of the way. And we're going to turn this right side out, which this is attached, so this kind of helps. Oh wait, I can't forget my corners. I almost always do that. You always want to clip your corners, and you don't want to clip it on the stitch, but really close to it. So let me do my corners real quick. It helps them turn better whenever you turn it right side out, where you have a nice sharp corner to it instead of a blunt corner. Unless, of course, you want it to look that way, I guess. That would be fine if you wanted to do that. So I'm just pulling on the elastic to help pull it through, which I don't know if that's really helping. Oh well, actually I can push it. There we go. Oh, all kinds of loose threads there. I didn't know that I had. Did I not sew the top all the way? It's just weird that, oh, it was coming from the edge. Almost made it feel like I didn't close up my top. Okay, here we go. Alrighty. So we got the basic part, and I'm going to get this point turner to help turn my points out. This is a lot more loose than my other one that I had the interfacing on. So I think I really do, maybe some lightweight interfacing would be nice to put on here to make it a little more sturdier. Even though that they don't call for that, I think I would like that. Okay, so I got those corners turned, and you just have to be a little careful with these corners because you're so close to the edge here. You can buy these point turners at, you know, any place that sells fabric, like Joann's, or used to Hancock's, but I don't think they might have closed all of them. So Walmart may have some because they do have fabric. Okay, so got my little corners turned on that end. That end's a little open, but we left it open for a reason because we're going to be sticking the other end of the elastic in there. But I'm going to press this first before we do that because it will be a lot easier if we do that. So let me just raise it just a little bit as long as y'all can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to kind of, oh, okay, good, it's acting all right. So you're going to kind of manually, with your hands a little bit, kind of squish out the seams a little bit, and then also we want to fold in this end so it will be nice and straight, and we're going to press that in also. And this is the end that is not sewn shut yet, but we will be. So I'm going to press that and also press all the edges. And the corners. And then I get the feeling this one corner did not want to stay out, so it didn't. Yeah, oh well. I'll press it. And this next part we're going to be doing, looks like I have a little thread over there too. Just cut that off. Okay, so the next part that we're going to be doing, we've got the opening down there, and we're going to wrap this around and stick it, oops, I got little threads, stick it in the end of here. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a top stitch all the way around, and that will close your hole here and then also secure this. And then once we do that, we're going to sew up the middle here to secure your pocket down, where you can have a split where you can have two different pins or pencils or whatever you want to put there. So I'm going to come back over to the sewing machine and try to get this back where we were. Alright. Oops, sorry. Alright, so I want to make sure that this stays in the center. And if you want to measure it to make sure you get it exactly in the center, you could do that too. Or a quick and easy way to make sure you have it centered, I'm going to turn this way so you can see better. You can fold your whole thing over and make sure it's centered with the other one at the other end, which it looks to me like they're pretty well centered. So okay, that's good. That way I didn't even have to get out a tape measure because I've already measured the other side when I did it. So you just don't want it to move. If you need to pin it to hold it, go right ahead. I'm not going to. I'm going to start sewing right. If you hear some noises in the background, it's one of my puppy dogs. She's, what is she doing? What are you doing, Lucy? She is trying to make a bed for herself, it looks like. So if you hear grunting noises, that's my dog, sorry. I'm going to do some back stitching here just to reinforce. Okay. And get to the edge and then turn. And always, if you're new to sewing, whenever you're doing your corners, turning at your corners, never ever move the fabric unless the needle is in your fabric. That helps hold everything in place so you don't lose your spot. And now that I'm coming to the top of the pocket, I'm going to come forward one stitch and then I'm going to back up. Do a little more reinforcing there, because you will be pulling on that area when you're pulling things in and out of it. Okay, get it as close to the top as possible and really watch this other piece to make sure it doesn't get up underneath there. Coming back around. I'm getting close to my pocket area. So I want to go forward a couple of stitches and then I'm back up. Make sure that gets nice and reinforced. Make sure nothing's getting hung up while I'm doing this. Oops, got my foot off of there. A little too soon off the pedal there. And let's see. It's not quite lining up with the other stitch. Oh well. Where's my other stitches? There they are. Okay. Come forward a couple, and then I'm going to back up. Always do that at the beginning and ending when you're sewing to reinforce the stitches. Alright, so I've got that, and I got to make sure that thread goes back underneath this pressure foot there. I'm just going to cut my threads off and then we're going to sew down the middle of this for the last part. Alright. So you want to have it facing where you can see your pocket. And you're going to line this up with the middle. And if you have trouble telling if you're in the middle or not, let's see here. You can always mark it to make sure. So here's my measuring thing. Alright, so this, now that it's all been sewn, it's looks like it's 2 1/4 inches. Oops, everything's moving around on me. I'm trying to, come on, work with me. About 1/4. Okay. So, it's not quite 1/4. So it's going to be right in the middle of that. It keeps moving. So I'm going to mark right about here for my middle. And then, I think once I get started I'll be okay. If you're not sure that you can do a straight line, just mark your middle here and mark the middle at the bottom and then draw a straight line to connect the two to make sure that you follow it all the way down. So I can see that right there. I'm just going to eyeball it. So I'm going to back stitch a couple and then come forward. And since that's right at the top of the pocket, I'm going to reinforce that a little bit more by just going over it a couple of times. Make sure everything's doing right. way to the bottom here, and then back up. Alright, that is it. Cut that out of the way. And then I'm going to move back over here so you can see. I'm going to cut my extra threads off of here. Looks like one got kind of hung. Well, yeah. Just cut that off. Alright, and then the threads at the bottom. Uh-oh. I'm gonna have to find something to put this on so y'all can kind of see. And my puppy dog's chewing on her toy. You're not supposed to eat your toy. Okay, do I have a book or anything that I can put this on? Oh well, I guess not. I can't see anything just laying around in here. Let's see. Just grab a book off my shelf so I can kind of show you. Alright. Tilt this up. So I just grabbed this to put on it. So you just open up and put it on like so. And then, let's see, surely I've got some pins. I can, oh, I have it on there backwards. That won't work, will it? Alright, straighten that up just a tiny bit. And then you just slide your pins in. Like so. So, well, I don't know how well you can see that. Tilt it down. Yeah. Oh well. There it is. So that goes on the front of whatever journal or like my calendar I have at work and so forth, that you can have a way to keep some pins, and then also it can mark your place in whatever it is that you're putting it on. So that's the project for tonight. And then tomorrow, or not tomorrow, but next month, or next week, let's see here. I am grabbing the, okay, I'm going to switch this around a little bit better to where I'm at. There we go. And show you the painting that we're going to be painting next week. So if you join me next week at 7 p.m., I'll be showing you how to paint this. It'll be a paint along. And you can always call the library starting tomorrow to sign up for supplies for this. We give you the canvas, the paints, and if you haven't signed up for the painting classes we've done previously, then you can also get paintbrushes for it. So we'll give you everything that you're going to need. The only thing that you'll have to supply is possibly, well, anything that you want to put your water in for your paintbrushes and so forth. But we pretty much provide everything else. So if you're interested in painting this next week and doing a painting along with me, then just call the library and tell them that you want to get supplies for the Crafting with Opal program for next week. And they'll get you signed up with your name and your phone number. And usually I'll have the stuff together and ready for you by Wednesday, so you can come by Wednesday to pick up the supplies for the Thursday program. Or if you can't make it Wednesday, you can always come in early Thursday before the program and get your supplies in. So that's up to you on what you want to do with that. And the program we did tonight, I also did it where you could call and get supplies, but this is the project again we did tonight. You can't really tell since it's not on anything, but you put it on the front of a journal and it holds a couple of pens. You can mark your place in your journal. But that's it for this time. And next month, I've got some different programs going on. I'm going to try a watercolor class outside. And that one's going to be the first Thursday in November. And I have a couple of spots available for that one. If you wanted to call and inquire about that class, just call and ask for Opal. And we're going to be doing it outside, so the only bad thing about that is the weather could be too cold and we might not be able to do it. But that program will be a virtual program too. So even if we're not able to do it because of weather or so forth, we'll still do a virtual version of that one. And if you didn't want to try to come to it, you can, that one also, we'll have a sign-up sheet for it to get supplies for that program too. So just call and let us know if you want to sign up for that one. I think the sign-up sheet will be available for the watercolor class next week after this painting class is over with next week. The very next day you'll be able to call and sign up for that one. And then we also will have another sewing class and another painting class, a regular acrylic painting class next month. It'll be a little bit different next month because we've got Thanksgiving on one of the Thursdays, so we're closed on one of them, so we won't be doing as many programs next month. Alright, that's it for this time. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.